You can only do if you're not actually following what you're taught to do by Christ. There's no way you could behave like that if you were actually listening to the Sermon on the Mount properly. It's not actually very complicated. We know that. There's no justification for a holy war or any of these other things. And there's not any justification for forced conversions.
Kingsnorth has this exactly right. Jesus Christ was fundamentally a wisdom teacher who taught us to go from selfish instincts and egocentricity to a more loving and compassionate worldview. His insistence on not judging others is in stark contrast to how most Christians conceive of the world in a very us versus them terms. G.K. Chesterton once wrote, "Christianity isn't a failure, it's just never been tried yet."
When you tie up a religious belief with kind of institutionalization and empire and power and money and all of these other things.
Again, Kingsnorth is right here, and it's one of the reasons why I'm such a huge proponent of using discernment in relationship to any spiritual tradition. State, power, greed, they will always insert themselves into organized religion. And it's our responsibility to parse out what is the state's desire for power and what is the true teachings of a wisdom teacher like Jesus Christ. A great example of this is in the Middle Ages, when many of the states, they assigned the reason their authority was valid to God. They said they had the divine right of kings. In reality, most of these kings were not behaving like Christ. They had no real connection to him, and this is why the separation is valid. In fact, Richard Dawkins, one of the biggest proponents of atheism, or at the very least is anti-Christian, even said this of the teachings of Christ.
Jesus's emphasis on loving your neighbor, which is very nice. The Sermon on the Mount is very nice.
It's telling that somebody like Dawkins, who has made an entire career out of doubting and dispelling aspects of Christianity, still acknowledges that the Sermon on the Mount and Jesus Christ's direct teachings were incredibly morally valuable and ahead of his time.
If you look at the history of, say, Ireland, where I live, or indeed Britain, the early monks who really founded Christian Ireland didn't set out to create a Christian country or create a thing called Christendom or anything like that. They just set out to do God's work and then to teach people about it and to create monasteries and do what they could do to spread the word. That was it.
Kingsnorth has a fantastic article entitled Wild Christianity, where he discusses how the original saints, the original Christian people in Ireland, were men who essentially went into the wilderness and were praying to God and in relationship to God, just as Christ would have desired. For example, he writes about Saint Coleman MacDowell, a man who went into a cave for 7 years, drank spring water, ate berries, and had hazelnuts from the forest, as he prayed in direct communion with God the entire time. This is one of the true reflections of what it means to follow Jesus Christ. There is an ascetic nature, a connection to the divine directly through prayer that Kingsnorth emphasizes, and of course the church obviously values, given the fact that so many of these Irish men eventually became saints. What I think most Christians get wrong is they subvert the teachings of Christ, the most basic and important teachings of how to live well, to the rules and regulations that find themselves in the Bible. My invitation is to focus more on what Jesus Christ taught, the specific aspects of love, compassion, and forgiveness that he taught, instead of the rules and regulations of right and wrong in today's world. If you like this video, please like and subscribe below. My name is Monsel. I'm talking about how to reject elements of religion, but not God. If you like this video, I think you're going to like this one.